So the NBA season suspended, hiatus they're calling it, kind of a sabbatical. My first thought when it happened was back in the mid-'90s, 1994, the Montreal Expos, no longer a team, had this great baseball team. And they were the number one seed in the National League, and they did won 75 games and 74-40, and they were going to end up home field advantage in the playoffs. And the season goes on strike, and it blows up their season. And I thought to myself, the Clippers finally have it. They finally have the best team in the NBA, the LA Clippers. Years of being, the stepchild of the Lakers. They finally have their team, and the NBA season potentially gets canceled. April 15th, about 5 weeks from now, is the end of the NBA regular season. There will be no regular season. Regular season's done. This is not a 1 or a 2 week thing. This is a spring and summer thing. Let me just say this. Last Friday, I took it off. And I was in Utah. I was skiing in a place called Deer Valley, pretty bougie. A lot of CEOs and business people where I'm at. There were 2 CEOs I ended up talking to during lunch, one from Seattle, one from New York, and then another guy from Atlanta who was way up the information food chain in his business. And they all predicted this. They said, we're going to have massive cancellations starting next week. There's going to be a lot of panic in the media. Nobody knows where we're going on this. It is not a 1 or a 2 week story here. It is a 4 or 5 month story, and I don't have any answers for you. But my gut feeling today is the regular season for the NBA is over. The standings are what they are. If the playoffs do restart, they'll be based on these seedings. My gut feeling, it's a 50-50 if we have the playoffs. If we do, my belief is they'll be pushed back maybe 3 or 4 weeks even, and you'll have you'll have opportunities to test some things out in the playoffs that you've never done before. But when I talked to those CEOs, all of them said we're going to have a hospital bed shortage in America. We're going to have a credit default situation. We are now, the bull market's over. We're going to be in a recession. They were telling me about 5 days ago what we were going to see. In fact, I told them both. My wife had a Ireland trip starting tomorrow. They said cancel it. So Sunday night, we canceled it. Monday morning, we canceled 2 European trips over the next 5-6 weeks my family was taking. I wasn't part of one of those. So, sometimes I've tried to lean on. Last night, I made 2 calls, one to Atlanta, one to Seattle. People in the, Wall Street that I've known for years. One of them was a college roommate. There's a lot of disinformation out there. Sadly, it almost feels political, where conservatives are saying this is no big deal. Liberals are saying it's the end of the world. It almost feels political to me. I'm a moderate. I'm a centrist. I don't think it's the end of the world, but I think the NBA did the right thing. This morning, the Big Ten, the Big 12, the SEC is canceled. All of them have canceled their basketball tournaments. I think it's the right thing to do. I also think basketball is a very unique sport in a very unique situation. First of all, let's talk NBA. One of their stars got sick. This is a sport in which you don't have heavy pads and equipment and helmets. You touch each other all the time. You sweat on each other. Coronavirus is very contagious. People could say, what about hockey? Same arenas. Well, you have a glass separating fans from players. In the NBA, the fans are on the players. In hockey, you have helmets, and you have lots and lots and layers of equipment. You rarely get skin on skin, hand on hand. You have gloves. The CEOs told me last Friday, and this is information that they were really hot on. They said, listen, social distancing is going to become very important. And I think a lot of these CEOs are canceling work, canceling events. You see Coachella, you see the NBA season. I think it's all smart. I think this is what we should be doing. I have no idea what we're in for. I trust people that are much more informed than I am and much smarter than I am. I don't think there's any value in saying it's just the flu. As I said on Twitter last Friday, after talking to the CEOs, I posted on Twitter, it is not the flu. You don't have a stock market crash with the flu. You don't cancel seasons and events due to the flu. Is it possible there could be some panic? Yes, certainly. I mean, the media drives a lot of things, but there's a thing called the World-O-Meter that keeps you updated on coronaviruses, every individual country, what's declining, what's rising. I sent everybody to that. We've had multiple instances in America, just talk domestically, of canceled seasons. World War II. 15 years ago, 16 years ago, the 2004 NHL season, you had a full season lockout. Major League Baseball, mid-90s, 94, season started, shut down with a strike. Again, I think the NBA regular season's over. The seeding is the seeding. I'm 50-50 on whether we have the playoffs. My gut feeling is they will be delayed. You'd start them instead of April 15th, May 15th. It should be noted China stopped its basketball season for 10 weeks. Reportedly, they're restarting it soon. MLS has now canceled its regular season for the time being. NBA has. I think XFL, baseball, NHL, March Madness are all going to have chain reactions here. I think it's the smart thing to do. Better safe than sorry. There's no reason for panic, but there's a difference between panic and concern. There is a reason in my life we've had books written and movies made about viruses and outbreaks. This is stuff that we've dealt with 11, I think, of these, these international viruses. We had, if people forget, maybe H1N1. There was, I could be wrong on this, I think there were 15,000 deaths in America. We had SARS, which was very, very deadly, not nearly as contagious, perhaps, as this. Post 9/11, the world changed. You got to be nimble. This is why I'm concerned. Our current president, it's not a political left or a right issue. I don't think he's built for these crises. I think he's attached himself to the stock market. That's his be-all, end-all. It is now crashing. We are the bull market's over. We're in a recession. The travel industry is going to go through some really, really tough times. The days of 3.5% unemployment, those are over. Okay, this was not going to last forever. This is not a panic. This is what we deal with post World War II. Every 6 years we've had a recession. We were in an incredible 11-year period of no recession. Now, this economy wasn't good for everybody, but it was good for a lot of people. 3.5% unemployment, stock market at 29,000 illustrates that. But now it's going to be tough. It's going to be, things are going to change, and we will be okay. We're a smart country with very effective people in important positions. In terms of the NBA, it is, I swear to God, it's the strangest year ever. 2020 will be the strangest year. You had multiple stars hurt. The dynasty ended overnight. Kobe's tragic death. David Stern passes away. The NBA China controversy. And now the cancellation/hiatus of the NBA regular season. It is just, if I'm Adam Silver, though, and I think this is just, my wife says this. She said, you tend to be optimistic, like you're protecting yourself, like you just don't want bad news. And I said, well, I grew up with some chaos as a kid. Perhaps, I've gone through enough therapy. It's a protective mechanism. But I see opportunities like this economically. I'm like, I called my broker last night. I said, if it goes 2,000 points down, let's buy. I see opportunities. I look at Adam Silver this morning in the NBA, and I think to myself, there's some opportunities here. Let's think about this. He has been a pretty progressive commissioner in terms of gambling. He talked about shortening the season. He talked about a mid-season tournament. I think if I'm Adam Silver, I try to make the playoffs happen. But this morning I say, let's push them to May 15th. All you need is about 6 or 7, 8. You need these are the world's best basketball players. They don't have much of a preseason anyway. I mean, they have like 7 warm-up games and they go right into the season. Maybe you go from 7 games to 3 games in the first round. Perhaps you eliminate teams. Only the top 12 teams get in. The Nets, the Magic, the Grizzlies, the Mavs don't get in. Mark Cuban wouldn't be happy, but, I've been hoping forever for shortened seasons in baseball. I think hockey's too long. I think the NBA's too long. Maybe it's time to experiment. I think anytime you have a crisis like this, I lean on smart people. You seize opportunities. Be safe, be smart, find a new way to do business. You've got an entire summer here if you're the NBA. No time for panic. It's time for read everything you can get your hands on. Be mindful. I do think if you are compromised physically, you're 50, you've got diabetes, you've got some physical issues, overweight, heavy smoker. I watched some tapes yesterday on this. You're best not to travel. Social gatherings, stay out of that for 6 to 8 weeks. I don't know enough about it to have strong opinions on it, other than leaning on people who on Friday told me exactly this was going to happen. So I'm leaning on information people. I'll disseminate what I can get from it, give it to you. And, hopefully you see me as somebody that's pretty measured on this. I don't have any answers. I've heard some people say, there's a lot of panic. Of course there is. There's panic all the time. Post 9/11, there was panic. People are human. People are fearful. We're mostly creatures of habit. When new stuff, Joy and I talked about this yesterday, when new stuff arrives and you talk about viruses and deaths, and we all have, many of us have kids and businesses are closing and the economy is shrinking. Of course, this is a time where we all need to be reflective and let's take deep breaths. Let's work together. Let's be mindful. Let's not try to win arguments on the internet. Who gives a rip?